Welcome back to the Playdate by Freshly Picked. I'm your host, Kaitlin Hansen.
And I'm your host, Klea Turner.
Klea. Every time I try to introduce myself, I debate because everyone calls me Kit.
Yeah.
And
that's like what I know you as.
Yeah. And I'm like, Kit, it's like an inner struggle of like, which one's going to come out?
Kaitlin, am I Kit?
Yeah.
It's fine. Whatever you want to be on that day.
And I'm just going to address this really quickly because somebody asked me last week, I was at an event, and they knew me as Kaitlin, which if somebody asks me what my name is, depending on the setting, is if I'm going to say Kit or Kaitlin.
Yeah.
Typically, like throughout my whole like professional, when I was working in technology, I would go by Kaitlin. And then just like my close, like my coworker friends would call me Kit. But people started first calling me Kit in like, I think it was like 9th grade. And then
okay, so it's been a while. It's not like something last year you were just like, I want to be Kit.
No, and I'm like, I didn't give myself the nickname, but it wasn't like everyone called me Kit either. It was just like my close friends, and it's like Kit, Kitten, like people just like call me that. And then my sisters call me Kit. My friends and neighbors, my nieces and nephews will call me Kate. Yeah, so it's like it's just kind of funny. So, but I was first like introduced to Susan as Kit because just like because of how I met her and like my friend introduced me. And so it's just kind of funny. They're like, oh, do you go by Kit now? And I'm like
I've always been Kit.
I've
always been Kaitlin.
Yeah, I'm like, it just depends on what. But most of the time, I feel like it's switched where most people call me Kit.
Well, in my phone, you're Kit.
Yeah.
That's how I was introduced to you as Kit.
So it's like inner like, oh, Kaitlin.
Yeah, but on Instagram, you're Kaitlin. Right?
I think I switched it to Kit.
Really, like recently? When I first followed you, you were Kaitlin Hansen.
Yes. When you first followed me, I was Kaitlin. Let me double check. I think I'm Kit because, oh, no. Okay. My name is _ Kit Hansen. My name is Kaitlin Hansen. Okay. So that's what it is. And then on my Well Necessities podcast that I do, it's Well Necessities with Kit Hansen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'm the same person. Kit equals Kaitlin. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to say that first. And then the thing that we're going to talk about in this episode, because every time we pause and unpause, like with recording, because we are both recording today, we keep saying things and then we're like, why don't we just talk about that in an episode?
Yeah.
Because it is so like we're naturally talking about it anyway. So couple things. And this is so funny because I just blinked on what we were going to talk about.
So fitting.
And then I remembered that it's our topic and it's mom brain.
Yep. Yeah. And we were talking about this off air, but I'm like, I feel like I used to be with it. Like I used to be so organized and on top of everything. And I try to be now, but I don't know why. It starts with pregnancy. Yeah. Pregnancy brain is even worse because literally like it is a crazy phenomenon.
I think there's like a stat, I'm maybe making this up right now, but I think you like lose brain cells by being pregnant.
No, I think and I think your body's so focused on literally building a human being that it's like we can't worry about like what's going on in your brain right now.
No, can't
like
be bothered.
Your schedule.
What's a schedule?
Your schedule is not our priority. Like we're building organs today. Like, and so it's not just like a thing that people make up. Like it is a literal phenomenon that when you're pregnant, you get kind of dumb. And I do feel like a little bit of it comes back after.
Yeah.
But like when you're pregnant, when you're postpartum and you're not sleeping, I just think like because you're in fight or flight all the time, your brain is just not remembering your schedule or whatever. But I am just more dumb now than I used to be.
I am too. And I feel like I'm like dumb in some areas and then like I've increased my knowledge in so many other areas. So that's what's nice. But I all the time like feel so frustrated with myself that I can't remember things. And what it is like I was going to put something on my to-do list and now I can't remember what it is. But it's like I know that it's important.
The little things. And then I'm like, because I'm a wedding videographer and I'm always terrified that I didn't write someone's wedding in my calendar and they're going to call me one day and be like, where are you? And it has been my biggest fear for years.
Has that happened?
No. I've double booked a wedding one time in 8 years.
Yeah.
But it was because a girl had like ghosted me and it wasn't actually a double booking. Like it was a confusing thing. But I've never had that happen before, but I'm so terrified that it will.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, Oh, I don't know. Like when you work too and you're a mom, you're like, like there's the mental. I think the other thing is the mental load.
Yes.
When you're a mom, because
you're
it's
never
like,
just thinking about one thing.
Yes. And I think that's where kind of like the frazzledness comes from for me. It's like, I didn't have to used to think about so many things. Like, I think that's why I used to feel like I was more with it, because now I need like 4 of me to just get my life in order and done. And I only have 1. And so there's just so many more things to think about. Like I was doing the laundry today, and I'm like, literally laundry itself could be like a part-time job.
Oh yeah.
And like just being like the manager of people's clothes and knowing what sizes and what needs to go to the DI and what needs to get.
Or if you need new clothes.
Yes. And so I'm like, no wonder we have mom brain.
Yeah.
Just the clothes are overwhelming me. And I got 20 other tasks I need to do in this day. Like,
oh yeah. It's so scattered because you're like, I was trying to explain what like my mind is like. And you know that thing, you know when you're like loading a DVD and it's like that thing that like bounces the corner, like, and it just can't hit the corner. That's me, but like sped up, where it's like I can never like hit it. And
like,
it's like
visual for that.
What's for dinner? Oh, are my kids like, did I remember to feed my kids? Oh, do they have clothes? Oh, let's go potty. Who's picking Liv up? Who's doing this? Did somebody book the podcast studio? Who am I recording next? Oh, I need to upload that. Like, it's just a constant like to-do list kind of in your head. And that totally is why we're like frazzled, is because there are so many things to think about that it is easy to forget.
Well, and I think sometimes, like we were saying earlier, like we just get so frustrated. We're like, well, why can't we do anything? And like,
I used to remember.
Yeah. And that's just why I think I just forget that I truly have so much going on. So that's where I get frustrated with myself.
Same. I have to have my husband like verbally give me some words of affirmation that are like, hey, like you need to give yourself grace and be patient with yourself, because you are doing a lot, and like you used to remember more because you weren't doing as much as you are now. And like that is just normal human being. There's so many times maybe this is one of my toxic traits. I will book things because I schedule guests on the podcast. And then we also record other podcasts here. And then people rent out the studio too. And then I do like a lot of events and things. So there are like a lot of dates. And there's been several times where I write down, like I put a date on the calendar and a time, and then I don't title it. And then I have to text every group of human beings. And I'm like, hey, do you know what was on the 15th? Did I schedule something with you on the 15th? And then one day I remember, and it's like, oh, it was for me just to text somebody and like check in on how so-and-so's doing, or happy anniversary.
Well, and it's like, why don't we just do that in the moment? But in the moment when you're typing it, your kid's screaming.
Yes.
And they're pooping their pants in the background. And you're like, okay, I'll put this on my calendar. I do that all the time. Like if I have a potential client that I'm trying to book, I'll just put like a dot on the date.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't I write it with a pencil?
Right.
And then I can erase it later. Like, why do I torture myself like that? And then I have to go through all my clients, and it's so... Yeah.
Also, people like make fun of it when they see it. So I like try to hide it, but I'll show you and see your reaction to it. But so I put things in my calendar, and my calendar like looks gross, but
calendar looks amazing.
I put things in my calendar, and I texted my sister actually the other day, and I'm like, I also am on an antidepressant, which I feel like gives me a little bit more like brain fog.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I stop being such a space cadet? And she's like, set timers for everything. And like, you just have to write every single thing down that you think may or may not be important, and delete it later if it's not.
Oh, you should see my notes app.
Oh,
if my notes got deleted, I would be a lost person.
I would cry, but thank goodness they're in the cloud.
Thank goodness for the cloud. Because no, truly, like everything in my life
that
I need to remember is in my notes.
Oh, I have to. But I put things in my calendar, but then I also have a thing called Hansen Family. And I like to see it written out like 3:11. These are all the things that I have today for the next day. Like those are the things that I have. And it helps me to see it visualized like
and I think sometimes
in order.
It seems like this big task to write things down. But I'm like, when you can get it like out of your brain somewhere else, it is so freeing to me. Like to be able to just go and look and be like, okay, what do I have today? Because my past self has already taken care of like writing it down. And I feel like it really only takes maybe 10 more seconds.
Yeah.
So that's something that has helped me a ton with my like frazzledness is my notes look just the same as yours.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, there's a note for everything. And then I
Uh-huh.
also have a to-do. And every night before I go to bed, it is part of my nightly ritual to write down anything that's on my brain.
Yes. No, I love it. Or like I'll do that, but like I'll think about the next day. Like I'll check everything off my to-do list. And if I didn't get it done that day, I'll move it to tomorrow's to-do list and then add my thing. Like a to-do list. It's the best.
That's my love language.
It's so I don't know how people don't like to-do lists.
No, that's my dirty talk.
Because
truly.
like when you can like check something off, you're like,
oh,
my dopamine.
It gives me a sick satisfaction.
Yes.
I put things on there that I've already done sometimes when I just like need a little.
No, same. And then
I need a little pat on the back.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I'm like, I need it. I used to be such like a physically like write it down.
Uh-huh.
And I did love that. That was more so like when I was working and like sitting at a desk all day.
Writing things down.
Yeah. Yes. I'm like, I like to check things off, but it's so much better to just like cross it out on a paper list.
Yeah, it's one thing to tap on your phone. That feels good. But like to scribble it out on a paper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I want to share, and I think I've talked about this on an episode, but I just want to share like a little, I wouldn't even call it a mom hack, but just something that me and my husband do to make it so that we're not irritated with each other, and also just like help plan our weeks, because I am working and my schedule is pretty chaotic and also just like at the mercy of other people's schedule and availability. So we sit down every Sunday and we will look at both of our schedules and talk about like, okay, this is what we have going on in the nights. This is what we have going on in the days.
Just these like, gets you on the same page.
Yes.
Well, me and my husband were talking last night. We love our friends so much. If our friends are listening, we love you. But like they don't communicate with each other. Like the wife will be like, let's all hang out tonight. And the husband's like, wait, what do you mean? We never talked about it. And we always joke. We're like, just talk to each other. Like, but you get busy. And so I see how it like gets lost in like, I don't know, in just like the busyness of it all. But I think that's the best idea. It's like having like sitting down at the beginning of the week.
We call it our family planning meeting.
I love it. And just being like, just getting on the same page, because I feel like that saves so many fights and so many arguments.
Where I'm like, no, I told you that I had a girls' night tonight. And he's like, well, I have young men's or whatever that
How
is.
Come young men's is always on the girls' night?
Ugh. I'm like, Eric has to bring our kids all the time and our kids like love it.
Yeah. No, same.
It's just funny. And then we will also plan our meals. I have been trying to just like cook 3 times a week. That's all I can commit to. Thank you. They're like,
it's a lot. 3 times a week is a lot.
It's things that literally take like, it might be Costco lasagna or the raviolis.
If it takes more than 20 minutes,
I'm not doing it. My cap is 10. My cap is 10 minutes. I'm like, I just cannot be bothered.
It in the oven. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then also it makes me not feel as bad if my kids don't want to eat it because it only took me 10 minutes.
Exactly.
But yeah, our family planning meetings, like we'll also just talk about like, okay, these are the things that we need to do this week, where it's like, hey, we need to get that crap out of the garage, or I need you to focus on that, or
it just kind of brings things to front of mind too.
Yes.
And I think like if you have a husband, I think they should be helping share the mental load.
For sure.
So, but like that can only happen if you're communicating.
Yeah.
But I think like that helps my mom brain so much is when I tell my husband what needs to be done and he just does it.
Yeah.
And so, but like, I do think sometimes like they just need to be like reminded or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also love, and maybe like I'm mean, I love to tell my husband everything that I'm like doing and working on.
Same.
So that I can be like, hi, these are all the things that like I have in my head so that you are aware of like what I have going on. Granted, like my husband is, I hate the term hands-on, like, oh, he's a very involved dad. Like, no shit, it's his kid.
Right,
like he should be involved. Apologies for my language, but I just don't really like that term. I'm like,
they're just as much their kid. Your child is just as much your husband's child as they are yours.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not going to call him a hands-on mom.
Yes, like, and so they're just as much a responsibility as you. Like, I don't know. It just kind of blows my mind when I'm like, what do you mean? Like, the dad should be just as involved, just as, you know. And obviously they have to work all day. If well, I don't want to do stereotypes here. Maybe they're not working all day, but like a lot of the times husbands are working all day. But I'm like, I don't know who, was it Mel Robbins? I don't know who said it. But somebody was saying like, when you get home, like it's like your husband doesn't just get to turn off their brain. We're working all day.
Yes.
Wiping butts and managing a home is working all day. And so I'm like, if you have to work 24 hours a day and your husband only has to work 8, like that's not fair.
Right.
You know, and so I feel like my husband and I are really, he's very like aware that like, and he takes pride in like, my daughter is just as much his daughter, and he's going to do half the work when he gets home, and which is such a blessing. I know I know not everybody has that, but that's come with a lot of communication though too.
And work.
Yeah. Like,
and like training.
Like, we both didn't just come that way. Like we've had to like talk a lot about like what our expectations are for each other, what we like need help with, what we need to get done. Like, but I feel like we're a really good team. And I think that's like the best part of my marriage is like,
same.
We don't fight very often because we communicate a lot, and like we get stuff done together.
Oh, for sure. And it's like, I actually had this conversation on Sunday with Eric, and I am not a perfect wife. I am not a perfect mom. Like,
me neither.
Oh my gosh. No. But I yelled at him on Sunday for no reason. He literally is like he's a perfect human being. Like,
no, our husbands are so sweet.
So sweet. And he does he does so much. And I just was like, what are your expectations for me? And actually, that's a great question to ask. And he's just like, I don't have expectations. And I'm like, no, you do. You expect me to figure out the meals because you ask me every night what's for dinner.
Yeah.
You expect me to have the groceries. And he's like, I order groceries too sometimes. And I'm like, you absolutely do. And I'm not discounting that. And you do so much. And I'm like, it's also my responsibility to, you know, remember people's birthdays and pick out gifts and like plan things and like do all this stuff. And I came off very hot and aggressive. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry that like I freaked out. It's a lot sometimes. But I'm like, I'm glad that he knows me and is like, no, like that is a lot. And I can totally understand where you're coming from. But that's not the right way to go about it. But at least the message was.
Sometimes we just have a freak out. And you know what? I'm here to say right now, you need a quarterly freak out.
You do. That is warranted.
Like, I don't know. All of our
and they do too. The husbands equally.
Everybody deserves a little freak out. And I just think like,
or partners.
That's it. If my husband's feeling like stressed and like acting that way towards me, I just know that he's coming from a place of being overwhelmed, because I come to him like that all the time too. Like, but I think we have to like give our partners grace with that, because we're all just humans we're all overwhelmed. We're all trying to pay our mortgages. We're all trying to pay our phone bills. We're all trying to raise kids and not let them die. And it's exhausting.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of that also comes with like giving people generous assumptions. Yeah. That's like something that my therapist has taught me a lot, is like just go with the expectation that like they are also feeling overwhelmed and they're also feeling the emotions that you're feeling, and like they're trying their best and they're not trying to like forget or not do things. So, and again, I literally have to remind myself about that all the time, because a lot of times I don't give generous assumptions, and I think that like I'm just the one doing the most, but I have to take a step back and be like, okay, they're doing a ton too.
Yeah. I know. And that's, I don't know. I think that's always like you're never just going to figure that out though.
No.
I think that's something for your whole life you're always going to have to remind yourself of, and always, I don't know. I think you have to give your spouse grace. I think you have to give yourself grace, because I don't know, being a mom, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot more than I ever expected.
Oh, for sure. The other thing is like, I think sometimes too, if you do get into an argument is still communicating.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, it's how you remedy it after. Obviously like try not to say rude things and stuff, but like it's okay to argue every once in a while, because that is communicating your thoughts, feelings, and stuff like that. So I don't know. Everybody's just trying their best, and there's a lot. And I think we also are in a world of putting a lot on our plates, and like there's a lot of busyness culture, and it's also a good reminder to just like slow down.
I need to remind myself that every day.
Yeah, same. I mean, I just showed you my list, and I'm like, how much can I shove into a day?
Exactly. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
So, alrighty. Well, thank you all for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any tips or tricks that you do to help with mom brain or forgetfulness or just keeping life organized, we'd love to hear it. So thanks for tuning in.
Bye.